Man, I hate following those FFA guys. Shame an 18-year-old's going to show me up. I didn't tell Brian I had surgery again last week. I had a hernia, diaphragmatic hernia. It's tough to speak when you can't breathe, but we'll try it anyway. Morning. How is everybody? Amen. 103 years. Happy birthday, Farm Bureau. You don't get there by accident either. Takes a little faith and a little something to get there too. I'm going to ask y'all to participate with me just a second. Do any of y'all know someone? And I say know someone because we don't ever like to say, well, it's me. Do any of y'all know somebody that's life was interrupted by a circumstance that didn't go maybe the way they had scripted it? You know, a divorce, a untimely job loss, wayward children, sickness. Show hands. Look around just a second. About everybody in here has been affected by something that they didn't plan. I want to help you today, and I want to beg you to choose faith over fear in those circumstances. Brian, thanks for having me. Hope it goes well for you. Thanks, President Mayberry, distinguished guests, for what you do every day for ag in the great state of Tennessee. You know, yours is the only occupation that I'm aware of that'll take their seed, plant it in the ground, kill it, and trust that it receive enough sunshine, enough water, and enough nutrients to produce a return of about 800% in an ear of corn. That's faith. You do it every day. It's pretty easy to talk to you folks about faith. I'm just glad funeral directors don't have your kind of faith. But no matter the return, you stand in due season and trust God for the return. So as I prepared for this talk, let me assure you, I don't have anything special, talent-wise or anything. I don't know, I'm probably a little meaner than the average person that would come up here and speak. Perhaps the most redeeming quality I do possess is mental toughness. They teach in the Marines, if you're going to be dumb, you better be tough. I definitely embody that. Go Vols. Thank God for baseball. Everybody in my family went to ETSU, so go Bucks. You know, this was probably my tenacity. It was probably developed out of, maybe it was in the Marine Corps in those duties. Maybe it was selling insurance at Farm Bureau. Maybe it was an undercover agent with a TBI. But anything that's good in me only comes from the Lord. And marrying a woman who embodies the proverb, a happy heart is good medicine. That's my wife. If any of y'all know, I told somebody last night, if you don't get me crying, get me talking about Jesus or my wife.
Reach on, brother.
I haven't started yet. I got a disclaimer. I probably don't need it in this room, but I will read it anyway. You're going to hear the word faith a lot in this talk. So if you're not a person of faith, I'll give you permission to substitute at your own risk the word courage for faith. I believe, however, while courage is limited to human effort only, faith employs both courage and divine effort. I would encourage you to use a little faith. Sprinkle it with it. It was July the 25th of 2014 at this very conference center. I received a call from my neurologist that I had early onset Parkinson's. I also learned there's a reason doctors don't like telling you that over the phone. But I had a fishing trip planned with some Farm Bureau agents in Arkansas. So, for 6 hours on a drive out, 4 days and nights, long days and nights in a fishing lodge, and 9 hours on a drive back to East Tennessee, I wrestled with the anguish of that news. I didn't want to dump it on my friends because my wife and kids didn't know yet. If any of y'all have ever dealt with something like that, the first night's pretty tough. All the thoughts rush into your mind. I call them you'll never thoughts. The ones that say you'll never walk your daughters down an aisle. You'll never see your grandkids. And you'll never see the plans you made with your wife come to fruition. But that night in a fishing lodge in Arkansas, I flipped open my Bible to Zephaniah 3:17. I'm not trying to sound holy. I didn't know what it was either. I flipped my Bible open. You know, mature Christians, that's how they study the Bible. They just flip it open and start reading. That's what I did. I want to read it to you. The Lord your God is in your midst. The mighty one will save. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you with love. He will rejoice over you with singing. Zephaniah 3:17. That verse sparked the journey I'm on today. Just to say, somehow I understood this was a turning point. That somehow I would finish strong. Just maybe not the way I'd planned. Fast forward 6 years to 2020. I'd been dealing with all the symptoms of Parkinson's. I'm pretty good right now, actually. I thought I'd be vibrating around here on the stage. I tell Josh, I don't like to text anymore. I'm the only person in the world that stutters when they text. I was dealing with some of those symptoms. The tremors, the Michael J. Fox, Muhammad Ali stuff. Stiffness, sleepless nights, anxiety, all that stuff. Muscle cramps, speech issues. You'll hear that some today, thank you. I was treating all those with drugs, and it just wasn't effective. I'd be sitting in the office talking with someone, and I'd fall asleep while I was talking to them. It's a pretty disheartening thing. At one point, I was consuming about 18 pills a day, and then I went to Vanderbilt Neurology for a second opinion on treatment options. The first time I walked in, Dr. Travis Hassel, he said, "Man, you may be a candidate for the DBS, the deep brain stimulator." Like I said, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I didn't know what that was. He said, "Well, it's basically a pacemaker for your brain." I was thinking, "Oh, that sounds fun." I didn't realize he was going to do about 3 or 4 surgeries while I was awake to get this thing in my head. And they want you to be awake because he's asking all these crazy questions while your head's splayed open and gets to do this. And he wants you to react to these little funky tests and all that stuff. It was great. You know, anytime I want to get somebody to puke or something like that, I'll send Josh a picture. He's really squeamish when it comes to that stuff. But I think we got a video of when that thing was turned on. It was December of 2022. If you'll just look at that just a second, I'll try to narrate. Go for it. This is me on about 18 pills a day.
It's crazy.
How's it feel?
Feels great. Feels like I'm relaxed for the first time in a year. Feels like I'm going to take a big nap on the way home. Did you turn this one on too?
Mm-hmm.
Man,
They're both on now.
it's insane.
You want to take a walk?
Sure. Can I run?
As long as you don't run anybody over.
It's worth it. Our family was on cloud nine. But another interruption was on its way. On January the 5th, 14 days after my wife videoed that, on a routine physical, you know, when you get 50, routine's not so routine. They look at stuff you should never look at. I was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. The GI doctor said a person in good health, which I was, I thought. It's funny on all my forms that, hey, how's your health? I'm doing great other than Parkinson's or cancer. The GI doctor said a person in good health with this type of cancer had a 50-50 chance of being alive and cancer-free in a year. Today, or not actually today, August is the one-year anniversary of me being cancer-free. The team at Thompson Cancer Survival Center, led by Dr. David Chisholm, devised a best outcome plan, which included weekly chemotherapy, daily radiation therapy, and culminated in a 9.5-hour surgery called a complete esophagectomy. It's where they make you a new esophagus out of your stomach. I don't recommend that as a weight loss program. It works. Just as in 2014 when I received the news I had Parkinson's, I had a choice to make. Faith or fear. I got to tell one on my daughter here. See, Grace is the oldest one over there standing by me. No, that's my wife's the oldest one, but yeah. The next oldest one standing by me is Grace, our oldest daughter. She's at ETSU. Go Bucks! We don't play baseball, by the way. They have a pretty good school of medicine. We broke the news of cancer to Grace and Anna. Grace is my drama queen. And she said, in her normal fashion, Dad, this isn't cancer. I'm sorry. Dad, this isn't Parkinson's. Cancer is serious. Out of the mouths of babes. I've heard it said, danger is real, but fear is a choice. Is danger real? Is cancer real? Sure. Is Parkinson's real? Sure. We don't have a lot of control over what comes into our life, but we have total control of how we respond to it. Doesn't seem like much of a choice. Lay there, get up. Sit or stand. Faith or fear. I propose the only way to move forward is faith. I'm going to make a statement here. It's going to make me sound like holy roller, but if you'll listen to it, I believe you'll digest it well. True faith doesn't deny reality. It just trumps it. I mean, I stand up here too much longer, y'all going to know I got Parkinson's. It's going to be painfully obvious to you as I continue to talk and slur my words and get a little slow. I'm slow anyway, but faith says that's not the last word. So sometimes our mind might slide. Do I ever have momentary lapses, think of the potential outcomes of these diagnoses? Sure I do. Just like my daughter did when she made her brilliant statement. But I never allow my mind to stay there. Everybody in this room raised their hand a minute ago. I want to give you a good barometer of where your mind is, faith or fear. This is probably the best thing. I actually came up with this on my own. It's pretty good. Faith urges us forward. Fear paralyzes. Faith is rooted in hope. Fear causes us to dwell in worst-case scenarios. Faith encourages others. Fear panics others. Faith is rooted in peace. Fear is rooted in hopelessness. Faith accomplishes. Fear empties. So how do we cultivate? Get it, cultivate. Talking to the Farm Bureau. How does one cultivate this faith over fear mindset? I thought Panel, Bobby, and Josh, they'd really like this part of the insurance company. You got to have objectives if you're going to do a talk at a business meeting. Establish a goal. Reasonable, but big. If you got a little faith, then just out of your reach, big. Establish a plan to reach the goals, and be ready to change your plans as interruptions arise. Some of my goals before Parkinson's were pretty generic, awesome anyway, but generic. I wanted to see my daughters get married. I wanted to walk them down the aisle. I wanted to see my grandchildren. I wanted to grow old with the wife of my youth. I wanted to travel, do some things like that. Some of my goals after Parkinson's and cancer. I wanted to see people be their better selves and coach them on how to get there, no matter what life throws at them. I wanted to steward my life with more of an eternal perspective than I once did. It's funny when you get told you're going to die, how you start living. Establish a working plan to reach these goals. I'd encourage you to write them down, keep a journal, something I started doing. Because, if your memory's as bad as mine, something I'll say today, man, that sounds great, it'll just leak right out. But let me tell you some of the things that you can do with a little faith. Some of my experiences. Some of my lifelong friends and their wives, Trina and I, we booked a 10-person cruise on a sailboat looking thing. It's about as big as that table. I'm scared to death. It doesn't leave till 2025. You're thinking, what in the heck? Anybody can do that? Of course. I made that reservation in the middle of chemo, radiation, when the doctor's still not thinking I'm going to make it a year. Still trying to work at the office in Seymour, puking in a garbage can and trying to hide it from the staff. I've run 3 5Ks since my esophagectomy on April 17th of 2023. And I made the first appointment to run one while I was still on a feeding tube because I'd lost from over 200 pounds down to 140. My wife and I celebrated our 30th anniversary by keeping an appointment to tour New England last year. You think, well, man, what's so big about that? I believe those were all acts of faith, proving I believed I'd be here in 2025. This is my favorite part. I like this part. Be ready to change your plans as interruptions arise. Parkinson's and cancer didn't change the goal. They actually enhanced them and they focused them. Interruptions in our lives, they're always going to test our faith. And you'll have an opportunity to give up or move forward. The quicker we recognize the interruptions as opportunities, the quicker we'll adapt our plan to continue toward the finish line. So, to me, the obstacles of Parkinson's and cancer, they've actually been springboards. That have pushed my focus to today. I noticed there's a big fad today of ice baths. That's crazy. I was listening to a podcast the other day. This guy, every morning I do these ice baths. It makes me focus on what's right in front of me. I said, I can do that without all the ice baths. Just get cancer and Parkinson's. You'll focus every day. We're trying a lot more comfortable. I don't know about an ice bath. I called Brian a few months ago. I'm just going to give you some examples of how this works. If you'll apply a little faith to what you're doing and believe God for bigger, this is what happens. I don't know about this part, but I'm going to say it anyway. When I called my friend Brian Wright a few months ago, I was actually calling him. What did I call you for, Brian? I said, man, you got anything I could do? It's a great organization we got. The last thing I thought I'd be doing is up here speaking to you guys today. It's his fault, Mr. Mayberry. If you don't like this, it's all Brian. Since the diagnosis, life smells better. It's the best way I can describe it. I'm so much more noticeable of the things I have. Don't hardly recognize the things I don't. Don't ask my wife, but I think I'm becoming more credulous and much less critical of myself and others. Because of these diagnoses, I'm about to finish a book called When Bad Things Happen. Because of cancer and Parkinson's, my daughters and I Started a Tuesday newsletter by the same name. I said I'd never go back to Africa after I went the first time in the Marine Corps. My wife and I are going back there in February. We're going to visit an orphanage there that our church supports. For the Thompson Cancer Survival Center Race Against Cancer, Team Hope, which I founded, was the top fundraising team for the event. I was honored to be the pre-race speaker, the race starter, and a participant. Don't ask me my time. Parkinson's and running do not mix. Because of cancer and Parkinson's, I'm trying to get a nonprofit organization off the ground called Our Hope Project. The vision statement for that organization is called Spreading Hope for a Better Tomorrow. I've blathered on long enough. In closing, I want to leave you with some thoughts or challenges. What are your goals? We're all here today. We all have the strength to get out of bed and get here today. So we must have a purpose. It's probably a lot closer than you think. It could be tied to a phone call, a hug, or the next handshake in this room, is how close it could be. What's your plan to reach the goal? If your goal seems distant or forgotten, ask yourself why. Alter your plan if you need to. And when the interruption comes, because it will, don't quit. It could be the greatest moment of your life. It's all about perspective. Choose faith. The world needs us. Thanks. God bless.